Good evening, I'm Briggs LaSavage.
And I'm Dan Wolf. Thanks for joining us. Big change is coming to Duluth City Hall.
Incumbent Emily Larson conceded her campaign last night, making challenger Roger Reinert the next mayor with 60% of the vote.
And Northern News Now's Natalie Hepner caught up with a mayor-elect today and outlines his next steps. Natalie?
Here in Duluth, thousands of yards are filled with campaign signs, those signs now being cleared as a newly elected mayor prepares to take office. Roger Reinert won last night's election with 60% of the vote, ousting current mayor Emily Larson. Reinert spent Wednesday cleaning up signs. He said more than 2,000 Reinert signs were purchased and placed around Duluth. As part of the transition, Reinert said he will be requesting meetings with key workers in the city, including the city administrator, city attorney, police and fire chiefs, along with finance and budget staff. He said he's excited to build a strong leadership team for Duluth residents.
I'll also be pulling together some smart folks on some of the key issues that we've been talking about so that as we jump into office in mid-January, we'll be ready to go and hit the ground running.
Reinert also said he wants to put politics aside and work with Mayor Emily Larson to make that transition as smooth as possible. He says that includes requesting space in City Hall to have those conversations. Reinert, along with all other city elected officials, will take office sometime in January. In Duluth, Natalie Hepner, Northern News Now.
Thank you, Natalie. Tonight at 6, hear how Reinert plans to build his leadership team and his approach to the people already working in City Hall.